Hey everyone, Mr. Zagara here. So you just finished doing a DBQ diagnostic on the rise of conservatism in the United States. And again, we've talked about this before, that unfortunately we're not going to have time to do a full-length DBQ in class. So we're doing bits and pieces of it. So what I wanted to do right now is take a few moments and go over what a introductory paragraph would look like, including the context, the transition sentence, and the thesis statement as it pertains to our prompt. Explain the reasons why a new conservatism rose to prominence in the United States between 1960 through 1989. Now, this was a released DBQ from College Board. This was 2015. So what I'm going to do is in the next day or so, I will post in the description on YouTube or in Google Classroom the scoring notes from College Board that they put for this exact DBQ. And again, if you want to do any part of this, whether it's your own introduction or whether it's your own body paragraphs, because the concepts and the skills are the same, feel free to do so. And I will be happy to grade that to let you know what you need to work on or what you're doing fine with. So let's get started. So you've read the prompt, explain the reasons why a new conservatism rose to prominence in the US between 1960 and 1989. So you've done everything. You've read the prompt, you've read your documents, okay? Maybe you've categorized your documents. And this type of question, what it's asking you is the reasons why. So what you're going to do is you're going to think about all the reasons why there was this new conservative movement starting to rise in the 1960s and coming through the Reagan era and into the Bush era up until the end of the 1980s. So what we're going to see here is that as you make this list, the documents are going to navigate you into your top three. Okay, so choose the top three reasons why there was this conservative movement going on between these the time period that College Board is giving you. Then as you do that, now we have to think about our context for our introduction. We need to go back in time, okay? So in your diagnostic, you jotted down some contextualization, you've jotted down your possible thesis statements. Now it's time to put it together. It's crunch time here. We're going to put it together and we're going to make a cohesive paragraph. So we always say that we want to go back at least 25 to 50 years, and we're no different here. So what we're going to do is we're talking about conservatism. So we're starting in 1960. So we're going back prior to 1960, and we're going to go back to the FDR administration, and we're going to talk about, so the prompt is asking us why there was this rise of conservatism. So we're looking back on reasons for this rise. So what was happening before this rise of conservatism that would influence conservatism? So we're really looking back on the liberalism of the 1930s in through the Johnson administration. So let's take a look. So here's what I have. Now, I'm going to highlight here my context. The presidency of FDR would forever change the role of the federal government. We're going into a big government here. The Great Depression would mandate the federal government to take a more active role in the political, social, and economic affairs in the lives of the American people. This more active role was reflective in the policies associated with the New Deal and the subsequent limited welfare state of the United States. The sense of liberalism of the 30s did not come without its critics, most notably by Republicans and the more conservative Democrats. Moreover, the sense of liberalism that began in the 30s would surge in the 60s under the Johnson administration. So this right here, okay, this is what I'm highlighting. Text color, I'm highlighting this red. This is my context, okay? I'm bringing the reader back in time. Now, remember, we want this to be clear. We want it to be concise. We want it to be 3 to 4 sentences of content-rich information. We don't want to have the reader have to think about, well, is it context or is it not context? We want it to be clear and concise. Now, we can't just jump right into our thesis that is now going to jump ahead in time from 1960 to 1989. We need what we're going to call a transition sentence. We need to now transition into our thesis statement. Okay, so our transition sentence is going to be, While the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War were altering the American identity, so now this is connecting back to the surge of liberalism under the Johnson administration of the 60s, an underlying current of conservatism was beginning to emerge. So this is my transition right here. So I'm going to highlight this in yellow, okay? Ooh, that's bright. Maybe I won't go yellow there. All right, let's go with a little bit more subtle color. Let's go with a green for spring. How about that? There we go. While the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War were altering the American identity, and an underlying current of conservatism was beginning to emerge. So here I'm connecting that there was liberalism in the 60s as there was in the 30s. So I'm connecting those two thoughts. And now I'm transitioning into this rising sense of conservatism that's going to be started. Now I'm going to go into my thesis. Remember, my thesis is more than just restating the prompt. I need to have a defensible claim with a line of reasoning. So the rise of the evangelical movement, calls for law and order, and the growing concerns over the economic conditions such as stagflation, inflation, and interest rates would be the main factors that influence the conservative movement of the second half of the 20th century. So this right here is my thesis statement. All right, we're going to make this kind of that color right there, whatever that is. The rise of the evangelical movement, the calls for law and order, and the growing concerns over the economic conditions such as stagflation, inflation, and interest rates would be the main factors that influence the conservative movement in the second half of the 20th century. So I'm giving you my defensible claim, okay, and my line of reasoning. I am telling you, as the reader, I am telling you that the evangelical movement, the evangelist movement, the calls for law and order, and the growing concerns over economic conditions. So the way I put this here was I made political, all right, with law and order. I made social with the evangelical movement, dealing with religion, and I made economic, dealing with the economy here. This is the way that I did it. You could do it any way you want to as long as it's defensible, okay? This is my defensible claim, as well as here's my line of reasoning. Here's my examples. So here is what is going to be, yes, you guessed it, in my body paragraphs. So my body paragraphs are going to reflect my lines of reasoning. So my topic sentences in my body paragraphs are going to reflect body paragraph 1, the rise of the evangelical movement. Right here, the rise of the evangelical movement. Body paragraph 2, calls for law and order. Body paragraph, second line of reasoning here, call for law and order. Growing concerns over the economic conditions. Growing concerns over the economic conditions. So it's nice and concise. Okay, then you're going to use your documents within those body paragraphs to connect your thoughts together. Remember, we want flow to this essay. We do not want, separate mini essays within the one larger essay. If you write a strong body paragraph, topic sentence in your body paragraph, that reflects your defensible claim, that reflects, your line of reasoning, then in turn, you are defending your topic sentence, which in turn is defending your thesis statement. Okay, so it's all interconnected here. And you want to use multiple documents, and you could take any source path that you want to, and you have to see what the documents are giving you. Are you finding documents that corroborate each other? Okay, meaning that are they supporting each other for your defensible claim? Like if you have something on the evangelical movement, you could be talking about Nixon, you could be talking about another aspect of the rise of conservatism with the stronger family values that were also going on during the time period, or how law and order was trying to combat the riots that were happening, such as what was going on in 1967 with the long hot summer, or the Vietnam War protests, like what we had in Kent State, and all of these different pieces. So you have to see where the documents are taking you. You have to analyze a few of those documents. Remember, we want to, for perspective, intended audience, historical purpose, etc. And then we also make sure we give outside information. That's information that's not in the document that directly relates to the document or that will help defend your prompt. Okay? So again, the big picture here that we're trying to talk about is this in green right here is this transitional sentence. So I gave you an example, a model here of an introductory paragraph that has our context in red, our transition in green, and our thesis statement in this light brownish color. Okay. Now, what you can do is when you go home tonight or over the weekend or before May 19th, if you want to do this DBQ at home, or if you want to do different parts of this DBQ, that is absolutely encouraged. And what you should do is then, if you want to pop in for a writing conference, let's chat, let's sit down, let's break it down. All right. We're striving for the 5. We're only a few weeks out. Talk to you soon.